Good morning. It is Monday. We had a couple of days off. We got snowed in and around Arkansas. We don't have plow trucks. We don't have anything. So when it snows, we're home for until when everything decides to melt. So it was nice to have a couple of days and a lot. Oh, I think I say that every episode. A lot's happening, so let's get into it. But it's been a little bit of a busy week. So we do have a lot to talk about. All right, let's talk about what's going on the other side of the fence on the collision industry. For the insurers. I tell shops all the time, if you believe your business is based on insurers and insurance company writing checks for collision repair and all those things, you had better watch what's going on that side of the fence, so you can stay updated. Well, Alacrity, and a lot of you are probably going, huh, what's Alacrity? I don't know if I've ever heard of them or whatever. Is in, I don't want to say they're in trouble. They're just done for. I mean, it's it's very similar. I don't want to say it is the exact same thing that happened to Service King. So Alacrity is a claims company, third party, a TPA, like a third party administrator. We call them a TPA in the claims business. Pretty big deal. Um, Mostly very well known and within the insurance side. I dealt mostly with them on what would be considered property. So homeowners, commercial, those things. Didn't see them a lot on the auto side until the last couple of years. They've been around Progressive, Allstate. They're handling, they got assigned a lot of the RTAs recently. Now don't make it sound like that's an amazing amount of business, because we saw from the Texas numbers still very, very small portion of claims actually use the RTA. But I remember the first call I got that said Alacrity was involved in an auto claim, and I was like, what do they know about auto? Because I only worked with them on the other side. They do commercial, auto, and home. They do desk and field reviews. I mostly dealt with them on temporary housing. So under the homeowner's policy, when your house is not livable because of a loss, we pay to have you go live in a rental of an apartment or in a hotel for a while or whatever. That was a mind-numbing. Uh, that was just one of the worst part of. So additional living expenses and your personal property, like itemizing everything that was in your house, were the two worst parts of handling a homeowner claim in anybody's life. And so those things became outsourced. We were sending those out to um, TPAs. So mostly I would see Alacrity over those. They also managed what's called the managed repair. So it's the DRP version of homeowners. So contractors will become part of this network so that when a loss happens and a customer, kind of similar to auto, goes, well, what do I do about the flood damage to my home or my kitchen ceiling falling in or whatever? You had some recommendations. It was managed repair. Alacrity supervised that contractor. They supervised the estimate. They desk reviewed the estimate, everything that came from that contractor. A lot of people I knew, and still, I'm gonna say I knew. It's not like they're dead. That's pretty bad. A lot of people I know left the insurance industry and took jobs at Alacrity over the years. So they were really big in that sort of network, kind of. And I don't want to say the only ones because that's not fair, but they were just the ones I dealt with the most that were in non-catastrophe based claim situations. So, well known, big. In 2023, BlackRock Investments, which you probably know BlackRock. You can go Google BlackRock. Our federal government has a big history with BlackRock. We got really closer, I don't want to say closer, we got more tangled up with them during the COVID thing. In February of 2023, BlackRock took a majority ownership of Alacrity. It's estimated to be 70%. I didn't dig too far, so I just want to say I didn't spend like 45 minutes diving into this and doing a lot before we talk about it. But it was the ownership from the previous owners was about 70%. So they took about 70% of ownership. And at that time, Alacrity was reporting that they were handling 2.8 million claims a year for over 300 insurance carriers. Now, some of you are like, oh my God, there's 300 insurance carriers in the United States. Like if we had to name them, we could probably name 10, 20, like as a team, if we were in the room together. But there are a lot of carriers out there specifically in that commercial homeowners in that sort of the business, outside of like just the auto that we're used to dealing with. Well, it didn't go so well, right? So they take 70% ownership in 2023, and by 2025, they are so damn broke, it is now being taken over by its debtors. Same thing that happened to Service King. So they owed too much debt. All these people that wanted to get paid, ended up having to convert their debt into equity. So basically, the floor fell out, the business dropped like a rock. BlackRock will be handing over, probably be finalized by next month, will be handing over their ownership and their entire equity investment, which is alleged to be 560 million, just goes poof. I Boy, I can't imagine losing $560 million in 2 years. I mean, like, how bad do you have to be at your job? Of course, though, we think about all the stuff that happens in our industry, all of these other companies that have gone bankrupt, how bad they were at what they do, and then these people pop up working for other companies doing the same damn job they were at when they were at the previous company that put them into bankruptcy. So it's like it's one thing when you pick up somebody, let's say you pick up a Babe Ruth, right? And he's got a great hitting average. And sure, that team might not have done well, but let's put him on the other team. But we're literally taking these people that bankrupt and fail at their jobs at other businesses and going, we'll give you another chance, right? And like, if you couldn't do it there and you couldn't turn the ship, why in the hell would I let you like get another boat? That makes no sense to me. But anyway, so that $560 million goes poof. And then there's roughly $1 billion worth of debt, according to Forbes and Bloomberg. And there's just different people that have covered this. And that will be converted from debt to equity ownership. So very similar. If you go back and you read about the Service King thing, here's these people that have a debt. And it's like, congratulations, have a baby, right? Like, we're just going to give you the company because we don't have any money and we can't pay you back. And then when asked what happened, like, how'd you lose $560 million in 2 years, which is impressive, right? Like, I don't think I could, no, I could spend it. It wouldn't even take me 2 years. I could spend it in a year. But they reported that claims dwindled. So claims fell off, and then insurers began to bring things back in-house. So that big blue ocean that BlackRock thought they were getting into, they're like, wait, here's this company, and they're handling insurance claims, and they're handling claims for the big dogs. And insurance companies, I've heard this over and over from investment firms that insurance is a recession-proof business. It is absolutely not. And for those of you in the auto body business right now, you can attest for that, right? We've had a couple hundred shops close in the last quarter, and that's not sell, that's just close their doors. So this is not a recession-proof business. It's not the cash cow that everybody thought it was, oh, we're just going to make money off insurance companies. We don't have to worry about anything else. For those of you that don't have friends that work at Alacrity or plan on going to work for Alacrity, this doesn't matter to you in some ways, right? You're like, Kristen, why are we talking about this other than, just Monday morning content for you to cover? The thing that I want you to get out of this as a collision repair on the collision repair side is absolutely 100. I feel like Chicken Little. 100% claims volume is shrinking no matter who I talk to, whether it's Alacrity and they totally lost their business because their incoming cash flow went away, whether it's rental car companies telling me they're seeing less rental reservations, less everything. Like this whole shrinking is real and it's happening. Will it bounce back? I don't think so. It doesn't look like it. We anticipated claims were going to disappear in 2015. Most insurance companies planned for that. There was presentations about it at industry events, and it didn't happen. The claims didn't fall off, and to a detriment because insurers had planned on that, staffed or didn't staff claims departments based on it, which is why for the last 5 to 6 years, TPA has been somewhat of a profitable because the insurers weren't prepared for the claim volume they had. But then as claim volume did start to actually recede, which kind of, claim volume was a little bit better than what we thought it was going to be during COVID. But since then, we're looking at 3%, 4% declines over claims. Now insurance companies are like, well, we can get our hands back around this again and we can bring it in-house and it's way more cost effective. This isn't the first time there's been this up and down over TPAs versus staff adjusters versus whatever. But it is shrinking. So overall availability of claims to handle is shrinking. Within that, there's even more of a shrinkage that affects us on the collision side because the total losses increases, the less repairables there are. So the water's already running dry, and then on top of that, there's not even that many repairables left in the pool. So you have to this year really start looking at how you work. Like You're going to have to learn how to make the same or more amount of money on the less volume of cars. You may have to do that with less people. You may have to think about restructuring, redoing job titles, doing things that make you more, I don't want to say recession proof, that's not right, but things that make you more competitive for where this new market is going. It's much easier to start thinking about it now than it is when you absolutely have no other choice, right? So you can start looking at those things. Some of that will include how you pay. So for instance, if you need two body techs, a painter, a prepper, an estimator, you know, whatever you look across your staffing model and you go, I need these people, they need to make a livable wage, right? Some of them are used to a certain livable wage. If you're paying them based on volume, in other words, the estimates and flat rate, commission, those kind of things, and that's going to dwindle, what will those people do? Will they think, well, I'm going to go somewhere else that maybe has more volume? Will they think, I'm just going to leave the industry completely? I'm good with my hands. I'm going to go work at Falcon Jet, or I'm going to go work at this plan, or I'm going to go do this. Will they turn out from the industry to try to maintain a certain livable wage? What are you going to do? So we've had this model for 50, I mean, for as long as I've freaking been alive, where shops think that paying on commission and flat rate, you like it because you go, well, if I'm not making any money, if nobody comes in and there's no cars or whatever, I don't have to pay anybody. And so it's a win-win. And then we have technicians that think that they make all this extra money because they're on these payment plans. But then you ask them to pull out their tax records and they're like, yeah, I've been making less money over the last, yeah. Or you have them complaining because an insurer does a chargeback on a DRP after the car's been repaired. And we see technicians posting, hey, I just got $300 taken off my paycheck because of a car that went last week. So there is a lot to think about. I would use the BlackRock and Alacrity thing to kind of go, hey, the companies that make money on claims, like TPAs, those people aren't making money on claims. Right. And they're reporting that there's a dwindling, that they're seeing it. There's not enough volume. They can't maintain, that they're losing money. So we just need to look at that on our side and go, is it time that we make changes? I don't want to wake up in a couple of years and realize I was Blockbuster and I should have figured out a different way for people to rent movies from me, right? Like, I don't want that whole scenario, whether you're Kodak and you study the Kodak thing or you study, I think if you want to study one, Kodak is a great one to study because they actually had the potential to sort of survive, but they screwed it up, right? They got in their own way. So there's some really cool lessons there in the Kodak thing. But you do need to pay attention. Claim volume, it's no joke, right? It's even affecting the big insurance IA groups, right? So let's take it serious and do some things about it. All right, what's going on next? We want to talk about. Okay, so I made a post that said if you're posting about all of the crap going on in California and how bad you think California is, but then you're also making a post about State Farm, that you can call me and I will send you the Village Idiot hat. And so that I will order these hats. I had some people write me and go, I understand what you're saying, Kristen, but I actually just want a hat. Can I get one? Maybe I may order several of these hats. I don't know. They may go with my Make Collision Repair Great Again hat. So here's the deal. If you believe that everything going on out there or whatever is true, right? Then you can't fault State Farm for the decision that they made. Now, sidebar, I will say most of this is all true, right? And it's not new. This isn't something that just got discovered because of the fire or whatever. I want to be so I always tell people you can look in the background. There's a bunch of State Farm cameras. There's a bunch of whatever. That company, I think, has Harry Potter employed somewhere in the corporate office, like a Dumbledore tower that must have been above the very top floor of one State Farm Plaza. But the loss prediction team, so those are the people that look at catastrophic losses, look at where those catastrophes could happen, what the exposure is of the company, et cetera. They're amazing. Like I didn't get to do a lot with them, but when they spoke, I shut the hell up and listened to them because they really knew what they were talking about. And it was lessons learned after the Northridge earthquakes, which is still one of the most expensive catastrophes on record, and lessons learned after Hurricane Andrew. They are really good at that thing. And no insurance company wants to just pull out of a state or stop selling policies or cancel policies. That's not the goal at all. I have no doubt that they spent at least 2 or 3 years trying to work with the state of California to basically go, here are our exposures. We need X to happen, or we need to be able to raise premium, one of the two. And California just refused everything. Now State Farm didn't pull out of all of California. Everybody's like, they just cancel everybody's policies right before the thing. No, State Farm knew what you guys were posting about. They knew about water issues. They knew about underbrush. They knew about all these things, which was what was causing the heartburn over possible exposure for when a fire or another earthquake happened. So this wasn't just them trying to get out of fires. There was a lot of exposure there. And so they announced it on March 20th that there was going to be the pullout. This was not right before the fire. This was not people just getting notified that their policies weren't going to be enforced. They sent out the notices in March. It affected about 30,000 homeowners policies, and then there's some commercials and some other things. Overall, it was 2%. You read the press release there, it was 2% of the market exposure. So you can't fault State Farm if you believe all of that stuff about the whatever. I mean, that's just good business, right? So those guys are fantastic. The real estate team too. I don't think State Farm does real estate anymore, but when I was there, we didn't rent claims offices, we built them. And they would build claims offices in some of the places that I was like, why are we, this is like the worst part of town or the worst part of whatever. Why are we putting claims offices here? And then poof, within like 5 years, that was where everybody had gone, and that property value went up 3, 4, 5 times fold. And you're like, okay, these guys just are masters. There was a whole department of this, and there's science around loss exposure and risk and how much exposure you have in a certain market. And they do a good job of it, and we can't fault them. Now, I can tell you that when a state really pisses somebody off, they will pull out. So New Jersey, after a hurricane, it was a hurricane/flood, went through New Jersey. The state of New Jersey brought us back. So that was one of my experiences, some very unfriendly laws about what we were going to have to pay for. And I remember one of them was no matter how old the car is, every car was going to get a new engine and a new transmission. And I feel like it's that meme, like the fuck it is, right? So poof, we left New Jersey, and I would thought that's amazing. Talk about like taking your ball out of the sandbox and going home, right? I ventured to say, as I see some things that are being said in California about the governor's going to issue a rule that says you're going to have to pay claims or whatever, and I feel like that meme's about to come back again. So we'll be interested to do it, but I think we have to be careful of our bias, right? We get our feelings hurt a lot with insurance companies. It's easy for us to say, look at how bad they are, and try to take advantage of that as a moment to like tell consumers that we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. This isn't that situation. This is business, and when the business wasn't profitable or good for the company anymore, they quit. I wish more body shops would take that as a lesson for when the DRP or whatever agreement you have isn't good for your business and you're not making money, quit, right? That's how that works. You take your ball and you go home, right? You don't stay there anymore. So if there were any disillusions, if you do want the Village Idiot hat, well, just let me know. I think I talked a couple of weeks ago about bias. I had a guy just like yelling and screaming at me over some things that I had done, and then I go and look at his page, and in his page is him yelling and screaming at the guy. I'm like, your bias here is incredible. Like, it's okay for you to have the same behavior, but it's not okay for me to have the same behavior. So that always entertains me greatly when somebody in the industry, particularly a guy, wants to explain to me I'm not acting like a lady. No shit. My mom's been trying to tell me that for about 52 years now. So crazy. All right. One of the last things I wanted to talk about, there is some discussion going on right now about an article came out. There are lots of different states across the United States where body shop associations or whatever have tried to put forward legislation around OEM repair procedures. And we've been pretty public, me and Larry, Mark Olson, most of us, of why we don't think it's a good idea. And it's not that we're not, obviously, we're the big OEM repair procedure people. Why would we not think this is a good idea? So just to read the language a little bit, if you look at section 1, notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary, so not if there's any other statute, No motor vehicle repair shop. So who's that? Who's this bill aimed at? It's aimed at body shops. No motor vehicle repair shop shall deviate from the collision repair guidelines, procedures, recommendations, and service bulletins issued by a vehicle original equipment manufacturer in the repair of a collision damaged vehicle without the written authorization from the vehicle owner or the vehicle owner's authorized representative. So basically, body shop's got to be perfect. You can't. So I always tell shops, if you think that you are struggling to find repair procedures, all I have to do is find one you didn't follow. If there's 65 procedures that are for this vehicle, and I find one you didn't follow, you are not in compliance with the statute because you did something against the OE and you didn't follow it and you didn't get the written permission of the vehicle owner. It just puts so much more exposure on you. I don't know if there's any way to be perfect. None of the software available to us right now is perfect, whether that's Repair Logic, whether that's the crap that's in the CCC system, whether that's all data, whether it's whatever you try to use. Nothing automatically gives you everything. There's no scrub tool that's perfect. We keep finding errors. Some of them are getting better. We just did another test with Repair Logic. So shout out. We found less that was missed. So they're getting much better at linking things. But no shop is perfect. And that's what we don't like about these OE repair legislation is it puts all that pressure. It doesn't mean that the insurer is going to pay it. If we go and we look at the insurer's paragraph, it basically says that, you can't indirectly or directly require a deviation. I don't fix cars as an insurer. I just indemnify, and I can have policy provisions around indemnification. I can just say, this is all I'm paying. I don't care how you fix the car or don't fix the car. Here's the amount of damages. Could we go to court and maybe try to argue that? Sure, but who wants to do that? And if you think a passage of this bill is going to suddenly mean every insurer in that state is going to start paying every single OE procedure, God, no. We're going to go back to where we were with California and the fire and the other things, and that's going to affect. So this really is, I think these OE repair bills are leave a little too much exposure to the repair facility for being perfect, and then it's going to open up a whole lot of other can of worms. So in other words, if I follow this, any one of you with your OE compatible or your aftermarket bullshit that's in your shop, you're now not compliant. So an OE scan tool with OE targets on every single thing you do. OE repair procedures on every single thing you do, which means, yep, now you're going to pull every dash out of every Nissan, and you're going to take all of the interior out of every Honda or Toyota. I mean, like if you look at some of these requirements, it's insane. Maybe we would get the OEs to give us a little bit more guidelines. Like, GM did a great job on some of their repairs and inspections required after collision, but some of these are like, wow, that's a whole lot of stuff that we have to do. So if you had to think about doing that in your shop, where would that be? So just careful on these OE repair required pieces of legislation. We know that the feeling is it's going to help us fix customers' cars better and get compensated better. But for those group of people out there that can come after you, just think about, I always had used to tell my adjusters that the nightmare was Larry Montanez re-inspecting a car, right? What the hell is he going to find wrong that one of our shops did, right? And back then we had way more of a warranty. What would he find wrong on a car? What would he find you missed? What repair procedure did you just never even knew existed? I go back to people. I think one of the last times I was allowed at an industry trade show, we were out on the East Coast, and it was a panel discussion, and it was me and a shop, and Mike Anderson was there, and some other people, and I would consider, and I think all of you would consider too. Mike's a pretty good expert at knowing OE repair procedures. Like he spends a ton of time reading them. He kind of lives in them. I don't. I got a lot of things to do, right? Like I'll look when I have to, but I don't stand around and read repair procedures like I'm reading the Bible at night or whatever. But he does, and so I consider him a knowledge of that. If I have a question that I can't find the answer to, and it's a course of certain OEs, that he works with as a Nissan, Toyota, whatever, then I'll occasionally shoot him and go, well, do you know about this? If it was scanning, it always went to Jake, right? Like, but on this panel discussion a couple of years ago, he pipes up and goes, oh, hey, the other day, I just discovered this procedure on a 2019 blah, 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 blah. And he explained it. And I kind of went, God damn. And everybody looked at me like, of course, I was this unprofessional, disruptive person, which I am. And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, well, you're like the Nissan guy, right? I consider whatever you tell me about Nissan, I'm probably not even going to question it. I'm probably going to go, that's it. That's the right way. So you eat, sleep, and breathe this. I don't. I may see 3 Nissans a month, right? That may be the most. And you just discovered something that's 4 years old. Like, that's scary to me. Like, I mean, that was my kind of an affirmation to we can try our best and still probably not be perfect, whether that means we bring waivers into collision repair or whatever. But I just don't like these bills because I don't want to put any extra pressure on shops or any extra potential harm on the shop. Like, I don't know what in this bill, what the penalties will be if you're found to be in fault, even without an accident. So if you have the statute, it doesn't take another accident for you to be found guilty. The statute exists as soon as the repair is completed, right? Like, the customer can just wait and let you repair the car and then go down somewhere and have somebody look over your estimate and try to decide if you didn't do something right. So as more of those bills are discussed, no matter what state you're in, just make sure that you're having open dialogue around, okay, what's the protection for the shop if we're not going to be perfect? I'm not confident in my ability to be perfect. I'm not confident in even Larry's ability to be perfect. I know that this bill's in his state and he's not real happy about it right now. So just keep those things in mind when you think about those bills or you hear people discussing. Last thing I want to talk about today is you will not hardly ever hear me say good things about DRPs or MSOs, even though I work with all of them all the time. But some recent coaching sessions, if we go back to the first part where we talk about claims are shrinking in volume and you've got to learn, I think there are some corporations in our industry that are very aware of the shrinking claim volume, and that volume isn't really going to be the answer going forward. So how do we increase profitability on the car count that we already have? And we're looking at what does that actually take? So everybody thinks that's easy. You do an estimate review. Estimate reviews are a piece of cake. Writing an estimate's hard. Looking at it after somebody writes it and telling them everything they've done wrong, that makes you seem smart and sound smart, but that's really one of the easiest things in the world. So you have all these people that sit and look at these estimate reviews and have a list and go, if only we would do these things, look how much money we would make. And I kind of giggle and go, you're never friggin' gonna get those things done because of just the way it works. I had the same problem when I was at corporate for the insurers. I would sit at corporate and do estimate and file reviews, and I would go, oh, we just got to fix this. And it sounds simple. We'll put together a training for it and then it'll fix it. Yeah, fuck no, that doesn't work. Right. In my 40 something years of training, I have yet to see a training class solve a damn problem on that side of the fence. And I've yet to see it solve a problem on this side of the fence. So we're still basically talking about the same thing. So there are some key things that you can do that can kind of not necessarily change behaviors. So when we go out and we work with people, and I'm just really proud. So if you go onto YouTube and watch this video, I kind of talk about they're a multi-location. They're very heavy DRP. The DRP is very much the largest majority of their income. In other words, they're not going to let me come in and cut their DRPs. That was a no-no. So how do we work within the parameters that we have? If we had a goal of adding $500 per RO, what were those things we wanted to add? And then how do we make that happen when there is nothing about the job of being an estimator that is productive to being an estimator, right? Like, you're going to get asked to do everything other than write a damn estimate all day long, but then you're held accountable for the estimates, which is always like, I have shops call me and go, this estimator isn't writing enough. And I'm like, well, tell me what they do in a day. And I'm like, well, what the fuck do you expect of them, right? You've got them washing damn cars and you got them pulling cars around and you got them talking to customers and you got them, doing all these other things. When do you want them to write an estimate? Anyway, that's on YouTube. Is you get to hear me say positive things. I'm really proud of the work they're doing. It's hard being an estimator and being asked to go ask for more things. Imagine, I always say my dad had you think I have a temper, you should see my dad's temper, but the one that gets talked into asking to go ask the parent, right? Like short straws or whatever, because you're afraid that if you're the one that asked the question, you're going to get the brunt of the anger for asking that question. And that's how you feel sometimes when you're asked to put more things on an estimate. Sounds easy. Some consultant comes in and goes, we're just going to add these things to an estimate. But you've got to be the one that asks for them, deals with the change request, has the negotiations and do whatever. And so these guys are working really, really hard. And I'm just kind of proud of them. And they're already about 90% better than industry average if we look at just what CCC reports. Like, I don't even know if the shit they put out in their crash course report is true. But if I look at what average estimate is for a DRP, these guys are already just cranking it up there. So I was super proud of them and made a video about it. So you can get in there and watch it. You may want to take some screenshots of it. You may want to record some of it of me saying positive things. That doesn't happen very often. I don't get many clicks on positive things. So, but some great things that are in there. Hopefully everybody has a great week. We are just about approaching, we're kind of past the middle of January, already 1 month basically flying away from us in 2025. And so we got a lot of work to do. It's going to be a interesting roller coaster of a ride year for everybody, whether you're on the insurer side of this fence or you're on the collision repair side of this fence. And then everybody gives some love to our vendors because I think they're just watching to see what the two of us are going to do in this whole situation. So everyone have a great week and we will see you later. Bye.